Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and we're doing a Halloween episode of our podcast, and we're going to be talking about Rigor Mortis, a 2013 film directed by Juno Mak. The plot summary is a public housing tenant is plunged into a dark storm of supernatural chaos. I should say it's also produced by the guy who made the Ju-On movies, The Grudge, and it's kind of a tribute to Mr. Vampire. So with that said, why don't we get into what you guys thought of the movie? Because it was both of your first time seeing it.
You want to go first, Adam? I think we all know what I feel about this movie, but I
Okay.
don't know what you got yet.
I, I this was an interesting movie, and it had some really great atmosphere. It starts off with a really good setting. I was really it is slow paced, but I was really enjoying the slow pace of it early on. It was kind of helped setting the stage and everything, introducing the characters. But it just gets a little bit muddled in the second half. There's too many. It's trying to be like a more dramatic version of a Hong Kong horror movie, but it's got too much drama. There's every character has their own dramatic backstory, and there just isn't enough room in the movie for all of them to really develop enough for you to actually care about any of them. And it just felt very muddled in the second half, and the pacing, which I liked in the first half, just felt slow in the second half. I just felt like, all right, let's get on with it. You got my attention in the first half. Let's just move things on a little bit. So I don't know. That's my overall opinion. What's your opinion, Joel?
Yeah, that's a really good like vivisection of this movie where it's like, oh man, this is wonderful deliberate pacing. There's all this
Hmm.
depth that kind of lurking around the corners. Oh, I can't wait to get into this. And it's not even that it's muddled in the second half. What happens is it's still at that pacing level, like well into the third act, and you're like, are we
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Are we just getting to this? Is the vampire just coming to life? Oh my god! And like as soon as the movie starts, we have like 5 or 6 scenes and it's over. So it's like that's
Yeah.
really frustrating because like this movie needed to breathe a lot faster than it did. Um,
Hmm.
there's a lot of time spent on like discussions of things like glutinous rice, and you're just kind of sitting there like, oh, okay, this is and like you're at the second time that the guy's talking to the vampire hunter, and you're like, are we still just having food and talking about ghosts? Are we gonna advance the plot any? Like this is like over an hour into the movie, and they still don't know what's going on with the plot or who the villain is. And at the end of the movie, I didn't know what the plot was or who the villain was. There was a vampire in it. That was cool.
The
you know?
the glutinous rice, by the way, that was a reference to to Mr. Vampire
Yeah.
and the lore. There's a
Okay.
very famous scene in Mr. Vampire involving the rice, and so
It
I'm
made me
assuming,
really
yeah.
hungry for
I
rice. So
Well, here's what's interesting to me is I think now that I've heard both of your opinions of the movie, I think there's a number of reasons why. Because I like Joel. What did you say you put this movie at for a rating? Why don't we start with our ratings
on a
first?
1 to 10 scale, I don't hate this movie. I want to be clear about this. This was generally an entertaining movie start to finish, right? There were a few parts where it dragged, right?
Mhm.
Especially kind of towards
Hmm.
the middle
Hmm.
muddle. Like
Hmm.
they needed an editor for that one, or maybe a rewrite. Like it's some pretty deep problems in the middle of this movie.
Yeah.
But overall, I had a really good solid beginning, and then it had a pretty cool climactic ending. And there was lots of like you said, there's lots of drama in the movie, right? Maybe
Yeah.
too much. Maybe we should have
Too
skipped a
much.
character or
Yeah.
two. But
I was into the drama early on. It's just I just none of it kind of quite landed for me.
But
oh,
numerically, what number do you
so,
give it?
so numerically, and just to give you an idea of my scale,
Yeah.
like 10 is like the best movie ever, and 1 is a catastrophe. I couldn't sit through the whole thing, right? And then 5 is like, I don't
Yeah.
really care. Like 5 did not make an impression, so 5's sort of the worst.
Okay.
And I would say this kind of pushes over to 4,
Four.
right?
Okay.
I disliked this movie overall.
But not super
Individual scenes were good,
strong. Like a
not even strong enough I want to rewatch it, and that's
okay.
actually sort of bad. Like it wasted my time a lot.
Mm.
It never really took off as much as I wanted it to. It felt undercooked.
Mm.
And so it's like, okay, well, I didn't like this for those reasons, but was it interesting enough to get a worse score? No. It was
Okay.
too competent to get a worse score, and there was too much I liked about it to buoy it up. So it's in this awkward
So
position
it couldn't
of
at least be like a
four.
so bad it's good type of movie for you.
We've watched so bad
Yeah.
it's good movies on
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
these
we
podcasts
have.
before, and like we rave about them because they entertain
Yeah.
us, right? And the problem with this is that there wasn't enough entertainment for the time and effort it took.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so it just left me with a bad taste in my mouth.
Now,
Not enough to hate it, but not enough to like it either.
Adam, what number would you give it on a 1 to 10 scale if you had to?
Okay. I was going to say, generally, I don't like giving numerical
Yeah.
scales. It's something I actually actively despise.
No, I'll be clear. The only reason I want to do this because I think it will help us contrast our points of view on the movie, and so
Well,
that was
my feeling is I would, if we're going to go by Joel's. Well, I can't go by Joel's scale because he's made 5 the worst.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I wouldn't notch above him.
5 is not the worst. 5 is the middle. 5 is it's yeah.
I mean, my feeling is, kind of my feeling when I'm rating things, if I am going to rate things, is how much of a stronger recommendation it is. I feel for most people, I don't know if I would recommend this at all to like the average moviegoer. I don't think they're going to get anything out of it. For me, I'm someone that runs role-playing games. I like running supernatural role-playing games. And so just all the imagery and the supernatural stuff going on this intrigued me just enough that I felt like I walked away with just something I can steal and use in a game.
Okay.
And so for anyone that's looking for inspiration on this kind of thing, and you're kind of doing deep dives, yeah, I would put on the list. This is worth a look.
Okay.
But yeah, in general, it's a very flawed movie.
So is that a 5?
So yeah, I'll go with 5. I'll go with 5.
And so and I would probably give it about a 7. That would probably be my score. And I think now that I've heard your opinions, I think one of the key differences is I liked the middle section more, and I liked the characters more. And so I think
I like the characters a lot.
Oh, you did like the characters? Okay.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, because
I thought you said you didn't
the
care.
beginning was so good.
I thought you said you didn't care about them in the end, so that's why I thought you didn't.
I didn't care about the stories as much. Some of them. Oh, I say overall. I mean, because some of the characters land better than others, but it just. I don't know. I just felt like there were too many characters.
Okay, well that narrows it down
stories.
further because I think it really comes down then to the middle section and the background material would be the key.
Yeah.
Because on that, you know me, I like these old backstories of like, oh, this is what actually happened. So this movie had a lot of that, and so it's like, oh, okay, So I was like, that's great. I like this. I'm getting like these little mystery, like the thing where you find out, like Kara Hoy plays the character who's like the mad woman in the hallway, right? And I found it very interesting to find out what caused that, because you're sort of thinking, what could drive a woman to that level of insanity? And I liked that backstory kind of tied a lot of other things together too. But also I just liked the characters. I do think the pacing is an issue. I kind of have more of an issue at the beginning than in the middle. And so, because for some reason it's a very slow burn before you even get anywhere. And so
it is. Yeah. I enjoyed the slow burn, but I can see that being very subjective. I mean, I kind of got sucked in very early, but what
I found was the first time I saw it back when it came out. So I probably saw it like 2013 or 2014. Whenever it came out on streaming is when I would have seen it. And I found that the first time I enjoyed the slow burn at the beginning, but then on this watch, the slow burn, I was like, can we just get I was sort of like, I know that there's supernatural stuff, and why kind of like what Joel was saying with the rice. It's like they're just sitting there talking about rice.
I can see. I can see on it. If I were to watch this again, I would probably have a more negative opinion of the early part, because I know it's like the first time you watch it, you're going up the roller coaster, going up that first hill, and you're like, ooh, where's this all going? If you know you don't enjoy the second half as much, you're not going to have that feeling. So I would probably be in your boat if I were to watch this again.
And what I also found was on my second watch, I enjoyed that middle section, the character exploration, and I just liked being with the characters and all that stuff more. Because it was sort of like the story's all out of the way. The story is, I know the story, so it's like now I just want to sort of sink into this stuff.
The acting was fantastic, I gotta say, in this movie. It was really good acting.
That's what I wanted to say. I think the performances are really like a big part of what make the movie work. I don't think that the direction is as important almost. I mean, the direction matters because he chose a very specific tone, he chose a specific framing and all these things. But I feel like without Kara Hoy in it, without all of these other great actors, who played Auntie Moy, I think she's my
I'm
favorite
not sure.
character in the movie.
Yeah,
She's
I agree.
well,
She was amazing. Even that scene that Jill complained about, like the early scene in the restaurant. It's like the first time she kind of shows up in the restaurant, I was like, wow, she's really good. It was
Yeah, the actress is fantastic and the part is fantastic, but
yeah.
it's just weird what it chooses to spend your time on in this movie,
Well,
especially
the Rice thing
considering.
made sense to me too, to be honest. I actually kind of
Sure.
liked the Rice thing, but I
no,
mean, well,
I thought the
it was
Rice
just revealing he was
reference.
a vampire hunter. It was like, oh, this guy's comes from a family of vampire hunters, and he was just kind of telling it in a very elliptical way. But
Also,
I thought I was just like that was kind of a
Sure.
early element. I'm like, okay, I know who this guy is now.
the actress's name is Hei Ching, and
Okay.
she played the lady in Reign of Assassins that was sort of like the matchmaker. You probably
Oh,
you know
Oh, okay. She did
yeah
look familiar
yeah
to me. Yeah, yeah. See that?
yeah,
She was very
she's
good
got a
in
great
that.
range, dude.
yeah
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah
because she goes all over the places. Like she's really pleasant in that scene and like really sweet. And then like later on when her husband, like in her interactions with her husband, have like a certain kind of like bite and character to them. And
yeah
then when he like doesn't spoil it too much, but after he dies and begins to get resurrected as a vampire, she has this unbelievable like you could tell the character is in denial and is really
yeah.
tormented by everything that's going on, but is still trying to grasp this impossible dream. It's like, oh god, this is good. This is
It was
fantastic.
Well,
It's a
and
good
they
kind of
performance.
a Hellraiser-ish to an
Yeah,
extent.
it
yeah, it
does have a
does have that
Hellraiser
vibe,
energy to it.
and they did a really good job of establishing the importance of their relationship, like just kind of giving through the flashbacks a sense of the kind of like elderly married couple that they were, and why she was like
Yeah.
needed him to continue existing the way he did.
Well,
Um,
I kind of feel the movie would have been better. As I said, I felt like the second half was too scattered with too many
mm,
dramatic stories. If they'd honed in more on her, if more of the movie was her and
mm.
the crazy struggle she was going with, I feel like that's the movie.
It would have been
Yeah,
more
that's the
That's the
movie
focused.
heart
right
of the
there.
movie. It's like we've got this other stuff going on, but
Well,
that's your gold in
I
this.
think the argument for that, I still kind of enjoy the backstory in the apartment the guy moves into, but I will say it's confusing because you have an additional supernatural thing going on
Yeah,
in a
I
movie about a
know.
vampire. Which in these kind of movies, that can, I mean, it's an homage to Mr. Vampire, so it kind of, I get why they might have more than one, but I feel like the scene in his apartment with the twins is there because it was, and I don't know, but the guy that, if you guys have ever seen The Grudge or Ju-on, that feels like it's pulled right out of that kind of movie, that
Hmm.
backstory. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Hmm.
And so I feel like it was an
Yeah,
attempt to kind of get it into that ballpark of of mood. Uh,
yeah. I mean, you
Well,
could even start with that. You could keep that character, but I mean, it would. I don't know. I mean, he would be kind of like your initial gateway into the building, and then you kind of move to her story more and more over the course of the movie, and maybe he intervenes. But I just feel like they kind of
honestly,
missed the boat on where the central, most interesting part was.
yeah, it starts you there, and you're right. It doesn't really, it shouldn't center there. Like the first thing we should see is that old couple talking about the new arrival, and then we should just get little glimpses of him. Because you're right, that couple is the heart of this movie.
yeah, but
Like,
Hmm.
well,
why
that
aren't they
framing
the
device
focus?
wouldn't work for the framing device because then it would like it starting with him is
Well,
kind of crucial
I
I
for.
don't care.
No,
I,
but I'm
th-
just
th-
saying
th-
if they're using
I'm
that.
happy to lose
Yeah.
the framing
Well, why don't we talk
device.
yeah,
about the framing?
same.
That's
So
the
the
thing.
framing
Let's
device,
talk about the
yeah,
framing
the
device.
framing
Yeah.
Yeah,
device is
good
maybe the most
segue.
controversial aspect of the movie, and I do want to point people to a review by the Silver Spleen because that was where I first heard of this movie, and he has a very excellent review of it, uh, and he actually I don't know, I might have seen it before I saw the review, but either way he does a very excellent review of it, and he basically posits two explanations for the framing device. And the framing device is the main character is played by Chin Sui Ho, who was in the Mr. Vampire movie, and his name is Chin Sui Ho, and he's moving into like this really dilapidated, not dilapidated, like I don't know what you would call it, but just this dour public residence where
Dilapidated is
yeah,
entirely fine,
dilapidated.
in my
Okay,
opinion.
I
I'll
feel
back
like
you up on that.
dilapidated usually involves wood, so that and this is all concrete, so that's why I was hesitant to. But
I'm in real estate. I know what I'm talking
okay,
about.
yeah,
I
I'll go
put it
with
in
you. I'll
all
go with
all
what
my
you have to say.
ads.
But he moves into this apartment and he's talking about how he no longer wants to live. He used to be this great actor in vampire movies and all this stuff. And then he goes to commit suicide and he gets possessed by these two spirits. And this Taoist priest rushes in and thwarts the exorcism or thwarts the possession. And then he ends up in a movie about, or he ends up in a situation where there's a vampire in the building and a bunch of weird shit going on. But then at the end of the movie,
There's a
we find
vampire
out,
in the building
yeah,
many minutes later.
yeah, we find out at the end of the movie that it's all been like a fantasy that he's had during the act of committing suicide, and so he's actually really did succeed in hanging himself. There were no twins possessing him, and all of the people that he imagined were people he saw coming in to the building the first time. They kind of have him go through the building again, but they show things in a more realistic light where people aren't in the states that he imagined them to be. And the Silver Spleen offered two explanations. His first is that it was done out of pretension, which he thought was bad. And equally bad, he thought it was done to get access to the mainland Chinese market, because there's a very inconsistently applied rule surrounding anything that promotes belief in superstitions and stuff like that. So if it's a comedy horror, sometimes things like that, because of the tone, they won't censor it. But if it's super serious and it might promote, those kind of beliefs, I think they're more likely to censor it. I don't know which of those explanations is what was the reason behind this, but that framing device does kind of, in some senses, it might work depending on how you feel about the story, but it does kind of have the whole "it was all just a dream" issue going on. So,
there was a lot of that in this era of filmmaking, and I don't know if it was like residual energy from Fight Club and Matrix and stuff like that, but I was just watching The Machinist yesterday, and I noticed it was the same thing where I was like, oh, so again, this is just a movie that's a dream again? How many movies like this did we make? And it was a lot.
Well, I think Wizard of Oz is just a dream, right? Like there's a
right. Well, it's not.
Only a few of them are good.
Yeah.
There's Brazil.
Yeah,
there's
a handful. Brazil wasn't all a dream, but like it did kind of.
No, you're right. Exactly, you're right. It's not all, unless you're watching the made-for-TV version, of course.
Well, yeah, unless you're watching the made-for-TV version, which we can all agree is the superior version. I think that's kind of a genuinely happy ending. I think that we can all prefer.
Yeah, if you know, you know. Yeah,
if you know, you know. But yeah, so I've never understood the impulse to say, all of that stuff you just watched, none of that happened. It's like, yeah, I know, it's a movie.
I mean,
of course, it didn't happen.
That doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people. I think, like, I'm fine if something was a dream. If there's a good reason for it, it'll. But here,
if there's a good reason, yeah.
I just ignore it. It's just such a cowardly way to make a movie. Oh, I didn't really make that movie. Yeah, you did. Commit to it.
I just don't know. Yeah, I just don't feel this is a good version of that. Even if you allow for it, it's like it doesn't illuminate anything. Like, in Brazil, there's a real point to it's a dream thing. That's the point. There's something being actually applied there.
I feel like it takes away the problem I have with it in this movie is it takes away almost everything all the characters do from them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing. Yeah, and we're left because the thing is, the main guy's story is never really explained. Like we never really illuminate. He's the center of the characters, and it's like I still don't know what his deal was. Maybe I just missed something. And
the only thing,
but he's now the only character in the story because nothing we ever learned about any of the other characters is a thing that happened. So I'm like, I don't even know what to hang on to and what to take away.
I mean, the only thing the only thing that I liked about the framing was that I felt kind of happy that Warlock Gao didn't have lung cancer at the end and he was eating an apple. That was the only positive that I was, you know what I mean? Because even the Taoist priest, he ends up being just
the old guy's still alive. There's that.
Well, the old guys get alive, but then the Taoist priest ends up just being some annoying schlub that's like not even. Do you know what I mean? He's getting yelled at by the, So.
That's right. That slipped my mind.
I mean, I guess it works out for Kara Huai and her son and all that stuff, but I don't know. I feel like you. And again, I did have an explanation that I think does salvage it a little bit, which is I think it was which I explained to you guys before the podcast, but I think because he's playing himself and they're celebrating the old Hong Kong movies and he's kind of criticizing the film industry and he's talking about how he doesn't want to go on and all these things, then he moves into this very depressing structure. I felt like it was kind of it seemed like it might be a critique of the of what's happened after the changeover. So I think you could read it that way, but I don't. Either way, I still think that it would have been a better movie if we just had a horror movie. Do you know what I mean? I think that would have been better. But I do understand why they might have done it if it was to avoid the censors.
Sure.
Even without the frame, I still have most of my issues with the movie still stand. So it's like it's not a big deal to me either.
Okay.
Think about frame stories too. Assuming it is meddling or something like that, or forced to be doing it, it's a very easy thing to just go, okay, that's not there.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause the movie 1 minute before the end, and there.
Well, I think that's the measure of whether the framing device is good or bad. Because if I'm watching The Wizard of Oz, I don't say, oh, this that framing didn't happen. When I was watching this the whole time, I was doing what Adam's talking about. I was like, no, I'm just going to ignore the framing for this portion of the movie.
Wizard of Oz is brilliant because it's L. Frank Baum very explicitly telling the audience, well, not even in the movie, but in the book too, these things that are fantastical have elements of truth that apply to your life. Right, that was like there was a lot of political commentary and things like that in original Wizard of Oz.
My dad is a huge fan of that, so I've heard.
Yeah, you know.
Well, I don't know. I've heard this. I've heard the accounts of it, but I had it read to me when I was young.
Yeah, I read it to my kids when they were young, and even as I was reading it, I was like, "Oh, this is about Herbert Hoover." Like, oh man, this is so about Herbert Hoover.
I remember the book was also a little bit more scary, if I recall. But maybe I just went, yeah.
It was legitimately more scary. Although I will say those flying monkeys are pretty terrifying. I don't know who was like, oh yeah, they were just crows in the original, but let's make them demon monkeys. That'll scar those kids.
Maybe they had like a bunch of monkeys needed to put to work at the, they just used them in another movie.
Well, the actors
about to go on strike. We'll throw you in this Wizard of Oz movie.
It's like, okay, so we've got two groups we got to make really happy with this new movie of ours. All right, what do we got? We got all the short people. Munchkins, we got it, and then we have the monkey tamer. What? Yeah, no, he's a huge in the industry. He's gigantic.
The lollipop.
I think monkeys used to. I don't want to get too derailed here, but we were just watching Cat People the other night.
We're doing a podcast.
And I did notice that in that movie they were selling monkeys in the pet store, and so maybe monkeys were just more widespread. I don't know.
That monkey union is unbeatable in Hollywood, people. Wake up, sheeple. The monkey union kills Hollywood.
One detail I really liked about the movie actually was that opening theme music. The chorus. I don't know why. It reminded me of the Rings of Akheton from Doctor Who, but like more.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So
the whole opening of this movie is so strong.
Yeah, it's a very strong opening. It's a very strong opening.
Yeah. No, I was prepared. 'Cause, I mean, all you did is like I was totally prepared to like this movie. You said you said up front it was a slow movie, and slow movies in themselves don't bother me. I'm perfectly happy to watch to watch something. But I don't know. I always do struggle a bit with movies that are a tribute to some really fun genre, but want to do it in a serious way. If you remember, I was very critical of Ashes of Time when we reviewed that on Movie
And I like Ashes of Time, so I
actually am tempted to go back because back then I'd only seen the Brave Archer movies. That was my full extent of Condor Heroes knowledge. I'm like, I was thinking last week actually. I'm like, I should give Ashes of Time another look.
Well, there's also two versions.
I kind of know these
Ashes
characters better.
There's the redo version and there's like the original version, and people are. I like the new version actually, but a lot of people prefer the old version.
But no, I'll give that another shot.
But yeah, so I guess to answer the question of the pacing, did we find what was so Adam? It wasn't the pacing itself that bothered you in this movie, then I take it.
No, it wasn't the well. It was. I mean, there's pacing and there's the amount of content within the pacing. It's like I'm perfectly happy to watch slow, methodical movies if there's something to engage with, but. Raining on the Mountain, for example. I can watch that. That's a slow movie, but I love it.
Oh, we never did. Did we ever do Raining on the Mountain? I can't.
Nope.
We did.
Oh,
we never reviewed.
I think we reviewed it. I don't know if we reviewed any. No, we did review Touch of Zen. We reviewed Touch of Zen.
Raining on the Mountain.
That's the only one of those we've reviewed.
But I guess to talk about the tone you mentioned, because you said it. It's a tribute to like kind of a Encounters of the Spooky Kind, Mr. Vampire, all the Mr. Vampire movies and Vampire versus whatever movies, their tone is different than this film. Those are like
very
very 80s Hong Kong mix of action, comedy, and horror, and you know, and there's a whimsy to them, and this has none of that. This is like dead serious. You were in a, you know, very serious and sad, depressing horror movie that is trying to make you physically uncomfortable from the very beginning of the film onwards.
It's like if someone decided to do a slow, contemplative, dramatic remake of like Evil Dead 2.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. I've been thinking about why I don't, because I mean, I do like certain new horror movies. Like I liked The Conjuring and things like that. But a lot of the newer horror movies I just don't get as into as the old ones. Part of that is that I'm old.
Yeah.
So I grew up on old horror movies. But movies like this, I think this is a kind of like, even though I gave this movie a 7, I like this movie. One of my issues with movies like this is they establish a mood in horror that's like older horror movies pull you into something, like they pull you into this environment that you want to go into, and then they kind of bring the horror to it. And newer movies sort of establish right away, no, you're in a horror movie and you're going to be uncomfortable the whole entire time. Like this and this is one of those kind of movies. It's kind of like Saw, or like, you know, like any movie after Saw, I feel kind of has that vibe. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. And I kind of like the slightly more campy approach to horror, I think, which is like, you know, like the Evil Dead approach.
Like the 80s kind of, not the slasher 80s movies, but more just that other whole genre of weird 80s.
Well, and even the slasher
lots
ones,
of
like even Friday the 13th
horror.
Even Friday the 13th has like there's a wink to it. There's a, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
you know, like there's
I'm not knocking those. I was just saying my preference, just my personal preference is in that area, just the really like Evil Dead 2 type stuff, or House, or, you know, those kind of movies.
And even something like The Shining still kind of pulls you, like, even though that is a very serious movie, that still pulls you into something. That's a hugely
popular movie too. It's not like it's a tough to get into movie. It's
Exorcist is another good example of a movie that draws you into its world.
Yeah,
like, Exorcist is another slow burn that gradually brings you in. And there's a lot of films like that, honestly.
And it's funny because
you're right.
Oh, go ahead.
There's something kind of Skinner box about everything post Saw, right? Because that's like post Saw also basically means post Hostel and post Human Centipede.
Yeah.
Like the mimetic energy of a movie. Oh, it's so gross. It's so hard to watch. Wound up being like a big marketing point for them, and it's like, yeah, but I want to have fun with the movie.
Yeah. Well, even like a movie like I liked, like The Witch, it's there's like this low resonating note in a lot of the scene. Like they're just making you uncomfortable the whole. It's they're not giving you that room to kind of sink into the atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? It's like a.
No, I get what you're saying there. I mean, I once again I also like The Witch very much, but it's well, you know, I think The Witch is fine. I don't think The Witch should change.
Yeah,
but you also want you.
We got a slight interruption there. Is everybody?
Yeah,
I
can hear you
in?
again now.
Okay, I'm back then.
Yeah. I don't know how much of what I said came through. I was just basically my point was that I like that movies like The Witch exist, but I also want movies like Evil Dead 2 on my plate as well.
I think if there were just a handful of movies like that, it wouldn't be different. But it feels like every time I see a horror movie, that's kind. And again, I like some of these horror movies. I liked The Conjuring. I liked The Witch.
Well. For every The Witch you get 9 other pretentious movies trying to be The Witch but not having the talent he does to pull it off. That's the other problem. It's like when The Witch became a big phenomenon, everyone's like, time to make my pretentious horror movie.
Well, I think the other thing too is when we were younger, pretentious horror movies were they would occur once in a while. Like you might accuse The Exorcist of being pretentious. I don't know, but The Exorcist, but they were like they were rare and they were done really well.
Yeah.
And most of the time, horror was just not a pretentious genre, and so I feel like, But again, just to get back to the sort of the tone of it, I feel like the tone of this is so different from the movies it's paying homage to, just like you were saying, that I
Yeah,
think,
yeah. It's no resemblance.
yeah,
This was utterly. When you said it was slow, because when you first like, oh, this is the tribute to Mr. Vampire movies initially. Later, like this is a very slow-paced
yeah.
movie. I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
it would be like it would be like saying I'm going to pay tribute to Bob Dylan, but in the style of a death metal band. That's
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
the feel of it.
Exactly.
Um,
Electric Dylan.
yeah. So, but again, I mean, I did like the way the movie looked and felt. I just and I guess you could say it's sort of like, well, they're trying to sort of like I will say like this, like I haven't seen, maybe with there was a Choi Hark vampire movie. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe we'll try to take a look at it at some point. That's maybe the closest I can think of to having a feel like this in this genre. I'm sure there have been others, but for me, I feel like I've never quite seen a hopping vampire that looked like that.
Hmm.
And so I thought
Hmm.
that's a very interesting hopping vampire. It's very scary.
It was a good monster design.
Yeah,
Yeah, no question about that. I wish we should have been in the movie more.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
Yeah, would have been nice.
Oh, all right, so I have lost Joel and Adam, and it looks like we might have lost them for good. So I think we're gonna have to end the podcast here if they don't come back within the next few moments. And what I'll do is I will. Hey, Joel, are you there?
Back.
Okay.
I had to disconnect.
Okay. Well, I think it's me. I don't think it because Adam's also gone.
Yeah,
So
I think someone's doing some like work on the power lines here.
no, yeah, they're actually they're digging in the street, so that might be what it has to
Uh-huh.
do with. So
That's,
what?
that's what's happening.
Yeah, why don't we end it here? We'll try to reconnect on the other side. But I mean, we got 30 minutes, so I apologize for the technical disruption to the listeners, but I think we kind of got through most of our main talking points, so I think it's
I
pretty
think
good.
so.
So I'll end it there, and until next time, we will talk to you later.